play for, or do you like to play jazz?
I used to, but I've really fallen off the train. Because once you start listening to jazz, you know, it really opens up a lot of musical genres to you. Because jazz, you know, you might listen to it on your own time, but it's really a musician's kind of genre. Once it's how you get into it, you know. Because I've heard the same thing about it's fun to watch soccer, but it's not exactly fun to play it. This is kind of the same thing, you know. It's not exactly fun to listen to jazz if you don't play an instrument, but if you play an instrument, then it's a whole other game because you understand exactly what the musicians are doing in their brain and how they're showing it, their articulation, and how they play. So jazz is a really crazy game that you'll see a lot of students around here that get into it.
Yeah.
For me, it was a little harder for me to get into it because I just wasn't that interested in jazz. But it did open up gateways to whole other like crazy underground genres for me. I'm really into like vaporwave and just a lot of like old 80s kind of theme stuff. I'm really into like synthwave, which
so define what is vaporwave, what is synthwave?
Okay, vaporwave is an interesting one. Vaporwave is kind of the resurgence of 80s kind of pop music, think Diana Ross and stuff, but it's literally taking that old song and slowing it down, maybe about 40% or so, and then when you listen back to it slowed down, it's like a whole new song. The vibes are completely different, you know. It could be a poppy, dancey, like funky song, and then once you slow it down, it becomes super atmospheric and lush. It's crazy.
So when you say slow it down, do you mean like they take the actual song and then slow it down, or they remake it?
Sometimes they can remake it. I think the remakes are really nicely done, but those are typically more difficult than, you know, ripping a literal video from YouTube and then slowing it down.
Interesting. So that's vaporwave. What's this sound wave?
Synthwave is very similar. There's just lots of like old 80s analog synths playing lush, huge chords, you know, arpeggiated leads, and the drums are just like wide, immense, and very cinematic sounding.
Okay. So you like vaporwave, you like synthwave. Are there any like artists that inspire you a lot in your music making?
It's hard because I don't necessarily just listen to that. You know, I have a huge range of kind of like a musical repertoire that I love listening to. I'm really into like hip hop and rap. I'm also used to be like a huge player in like metal and prog metal kind of stuff. So it's hard to nail down one exact artist that I really, really like. But if I could, I would say that the entire soundtrack of the game Hotline Miami.
Oh, I remember you talking about this. Yeah. So the video game, the soundtrack from the video game.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting thing to say,
right?
Or to be inspired by.
Because who the hell listens to listen to video game soundtracks?
Well, that's, you know, the future artists are the ones listening.
Right. Yeah, or just like really nerdy.
Yeah, or you know, or both. So, well, you're not that nerdy. You were in like quite a few bands.
Yeah, I
in your time at OSA, right? And bands outside of OSA.
Sure. Yeah.
So tell me about that a little bit. What did you guys play?
We just played like a lot of like cover songs. You know, we never did anything original, which I was really disappointed in. But it was nice to have that ability to, you know, go out and be your own kind of working musician, playing your own shows that you arranged for and that you rehearsed for all on your own stuff. It's a good feeling of independence that you can relate to with playing an instrument.
Do you still do that now?
No.
No.
I'm way too busy to be doing that now.
Really?
Yeah.
What are you doing outside of school then?
Outside of school, I mostly just work.
Oh, yeah.
I knock out about like 30 hours a week in addition to school. I ride my bike a lot. That's something I'm really into. One of the places that I work at is a bike shop. And, oh man, it's like one of the best privileges I've had in a while, because working at a bike shop, you get like all the discounts, you get all the tools.
You work at 2 bike shops, don't you?
I work at a bike like repair place, and then I also work at a bicycle apparel and accessories kind of deal.
So you got a lot of bike stuff going on then.
I do. I have about 4 bikes, and I've had to hide one of them at my workplace because my dad didn't want me to put like 4 bikes in the garage.
Does your dad know you have it?
Sometimes he like loses track. He thinks I'm 19 sometimes. So it's cool.
Well, I guess we won't let your dad listen to this then. So going back to to your music. So what do you do any art stuff outside of school? Your music outside of school anymore? Or?
I don't do a lot more music. I'm a lot more into like visual production, whether it's graphic design or photography or videography. That's kind of where my niche mostly lies now. Working behind a camera, behind a computer.
Yeah. So Kevin, your Instagram account is very aesthetically pleasing.
Thank you. Thank you.
You do a lot of photography now.
I do.
Do you ever relate that back to your art at OSA, or do you think this is kind of becoming your art?
I definitely think it's gonna be my next like big field of focus. Whether it relates back to OSA or not, I've definitely met a lot of cool people here at OSA that were huge inspirations for me when working with video and photography. But otherwise, I would say it's a pretty separate thing from OSA, which I think is cool because you can do OSA art and then leave and then do a completely different.
Yeah. So speaking of OSA art, so now we've talked about instrumental, we've talked about vaporwave. Tell me about AP&E. What is that like? I think that's an emphasis that most people don't really know what actually happens behind those doors.
For sure. Yeah. AP&E, it's like the old AV kids that you saw in those 80s like John Hughes movies. But, in 2018, the game is very, very different now. We call it audio production and engineering. Typically, the college course that you'll see is music production and engineering. But, it's high school. We like to cover a broader kind of sense of things. So we have audio as a means to encompass all of audio. We're not just making music. We're also, we're rescoring films. We're doing Foley. We're doing ADR. We're doing like podcasts and radio shows, and it's a kind of wider than just music.
You produce rap songs, don't you?
No. Some of my classmates do. With an artist that we know here at OSA. Yeah, we do. You might have him on the show actually pretty soon.
Yeah, maybe. So AP&E, you make a lot of beats. Is that correct?
Sure. You can call them beats, but compositions.
What am I supposed to call them? Compositions.
It's wider than that. People make beats, but people also make soundtracks and scores. And
do you ever work with digital media kids on this kind of stuff?
We do, yeah. Because digital media puts out a lot of films all the time, and sometimes we get the privilege of getting to score them or do all the Foley and sounds in them.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Oh, you do Foley work then?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, that's super cool. And for those of us who don't know what Foley work is, I was actually doing some Foley work.
Yeah, that's funny you say that.
So tell us what that means.
Foley comes from the guy whose actually last name is Foley. His first name might be John or something. Starts with a J. Who cares? But it's basically adding in sounds after the recording. Whether it's like a movie of like horses running across the beach, then you would literally get some coconuts or something and make click-clacking sounds in the studio, and then you would just basically layer effects on and on top of it until it sounds like literally horses, clap-trapping up on the beach.
Clap-trapping, yeah. It's like recording everyday objects and then everyday sounds and then putting them into a movie.
Exactly.
In post-production.
Right.
It's really, really cool stuff. I didn't know you guys did that.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, so what's the future of AP&E?
We have a lot of possible directions that we could go. I mean, let's say 5 years. 5 years might be hard to say because it's like such a strange. It's like a short interval.
Let's talk immediate future. What's happening to AP&E next year? Next year, changes.
Honestly, not that much.
Really,
which is very good for AP&E in its own standing because it's a very independent emphasis. We're gonna be lumped in with either digital or instrumental or whatever, but we're still going to be doing our own thing, and we've always had our own like private donors and stuff, which is important because AP&E is really learning to know your gear, and through your gear you get to train your ears and know the sound better, so that's a central thing, and I don't think AP&E is going to lose that anytime soon, and even if they did, like we have such a good foundation already that I'm not worried about AP&E for the next few years.
For sure.
In maybe about 10 years, McGovern might have a full classroom of like 30 students with like huge workstations, and it could be a much bigger emphasis than the 8 people that.
Yes, so it's only 8 people.
Yeah.
And is that underclassmen and upperclassmen?
Yeah, they're underclassmen and upperclassmen.
I heard something about them possibly moving into middle school. Is that true?
That's correct, but only the MIDI production side of things. So they won't be working with any of the microphones or any of the consoles or any of the big, fun toys.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So they don't get to do anything fun in middle school.
Yeah, they just get they get to make beats. Yeah.
Okay. Not compositions, beats.
Or compositions, whatever.
So okay, let's talk about right now. Let's say you're leaving OSA. You're a senior. You're going off. What would you say is your OSA legacy?
Sometimes I like to think that I helped to get APNE into existence, just because I annoyed the hell out of Miss Menzies, Mr. McGovern, just trying to get people to actually, because at first it was a class. It was just a single, 1 hour class. And I knew that in my 4 years here, I would never be eligible to take that class.
Really?
Because I only have 4 years. I have to take a theory class each year. And in order to take the class, you had to pass all 4 theory classes.
Oh, wow.
So by the time I passed all 4 theory classes, I'd be graduated and going to college.
Because you came as a freshman.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, I brought this to the attention of Miss Menzies and whatever. Just annoyed them so much. And then they finally did. Yeah. And they created APNE. But otherwise, my legacy here, I don't know, what kind of legacy do you typically leave out of high school, right?
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think next year? If people were talking about you next year, what would they be saying?
He was late to class so much that Mr. Taylor created a tardy policy around him. No.
Oh,
that was probably Morgan Chan.
Right.
We should get in here.
To talk about that. Well,
Yeah.
No, but you. I mean, APNE is a fine. That's a pretty good legacy you got.
I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah. Well, where are you off to next year? If you it's May 3rd now.
Well, I'm going to Lane Community College.
For sure.
And just knock out stuff for 2 years and keep working at the same time. And then, by then, we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been perfect. This has been a special edition of Make That Change called Senior Send-Off. I've been your host, Ben Rotenberg, along with my wonderful guest, Kevin Zhu. And we'll see you next time on KOSARadio.org.
Okay, Ben, just give me where minds, words, music, and rhymes meet.
Where minds, words, music, and rhymes meet.
It's great.